Welcome all my spooky friends to Almaned Paranormal. So today's video we're going to talk about how I landed myself my Dutch husband. I met him over MySpace, yes, a long time ago. And he is going to be a part of this video. As I have said, he is my person in the background. He is not comfortable coming on camera, which is fine. I'm not going to push the issue. But you will hear him. Say hello, dear.
Hello, dear.
And so I met him on MySpace. We talked. We really clicked and hit it off. And I think it was probably a month into our conversation. It's been 14 years. So he asked if I wanted to move there and live with him. And I was like, well, heck yeah. Because I figure if it didn't work, hey, at least I got to see Europe. So he came, met my family, and I left with him to live in Holland. And of course, me living with him, I drug him into this wonderful world, kicking and screaming. Wouldn't you say, dear?
Yes.
I did tell him that I was sensitive, and I told him my backstory. And, you know, my dear husband, he's a hardcore skeptic. You know, at the time, he didn't believe there was a heaven or a hell or a God or a devil. And moving there, I had something follow me. That's another story. And we're laying in bed, sound asleep. My foot's kind of hanging off the side of the bed. And yeah, my little visitor, he grabbed my ankle. Not prepared for that, sound asleep. And I literally sat up in bed and screamed, "Do not touch me ever again." And of course, my husband, it woke him up, which is shocking. And he was like, what the heck is going on? And I explained to him, and of course, he just was like, okay, she's kooky. And so time goes on, and we start doing evening walks. And, you know, religiously every night after dinner, we did our evening walks. You know, we ended up getting our dog Bruiser that you heard about. And in one of our walks, we came across, and I can't even tell you, keep in mind, before I start, keep in mind, I didn't know anything about Rotterdam. I didn't even know the language, couldn't read it, couldn't speak it, and had no idea what I had walked into. Didn't even do research, which was ridiculous on my end, but I didn't even do research of where I was going to live. So we're walking one evening, and we come across this area. I can't even tell you where it is. He can. And I picked up on some residual energy. And I started explaining to him what I was seeing, because I had stopped. And, you know, you probably turned around and looked at what I was.
Right.
And so I was explaining to him what I was witnessing. And when I pick up on this residual energy, I can hear, see, smell everything that's going on. And so I see these German soldiers. They're pulling these people out, women, children, men, it didn't matter. And they're all standing on the in a line, and they all have their guns pointed at these people. I have no idea what they're shouting. I have no clue. And I'm telling him this, and I said, oh my God, they just shot all these people. They just shot and killed all these people. I could, I'm not going to be gory because y'all can imagine, but I could smell the, whenever you shoot a gun, you can smell it. And I could smell it and other things. And I was just kind of shocked at what I was witnessing. And I don't know what was going through your mind, dear.
Well, I couldn't believe it first because I was just looking at her like, why, why right here? But then I looked at the side wall and I saw the plaque there, and there's a plaque in Dutch that tells you that during the war, they wanted to try some people that were in the resistance, and what they did was take people outside of their houses and line them up and said, like, if these people that are resistance don't come forward, we'll shoot these people. And there's a plaque there reminding everybody that that happened at that place. And I knew that in no way, no how, she could have known that that happened over there. And I mean, the plaque is not even that visible. So it's, and even if she saw the plaque, it had nothing to do in English or anything. It's only in Dutch. So,
Well, you also went home and immediately looked up that area as well.
yeah. And yeah, I started researching too, and all these things that she says came out true. So, I mean, that really showed me her ability, that what she can do.
Um, I think the next time was we went to a particular grocery store, and so coming back in the vehicle, it's always rush hour at this time. We're coming home from the grocery store, and every time we're stopped in front of this old prison. Can't tell you the name, still don't know the name. And we're stopped there, and I'm always like, I'm telling him, it's like, it really makes me sick to my stomach every time we stop here. And of course, my husband's reaction was,
Yeah, understanding, but there was something going on. So I did my research into it, and
well, hang on,
okay,
we're jumping.
yes, ma'am.
So I explained to my husband, I said, I can hear people screaming. I can smell blood. I said, I get flashes. Sometimes I can see things like it's a movie reel. Sometimes you get flashes of things. And I'm getting flashes of people being tortured. And I'm assuming, because I'm still not understanding what is being said, and I'm assuming by the pictures I'm getting in my mind's eye, is that they're torturing these people. Of course, we're going back to it's Germans who have taken politicians, or they maybe have captured a Dutch resistance, or just an average person they think may have information. And I'm figuring out maybe they're being tortured, and I'm not really. I'm assuming they're being tortured for information, and it is the most horrendous, awful things I'm seeing flashing in front of me. And as I can tell you, I'm smelling everything, and it just was turning my stomach hearing the screams and the screaming, the yelling, it was just horrible. And I'm telling my husband these things that I'm seeing. And so you once again do your research.
Right, and I spoke to a Dutch historian, and he told me exactly that, that prison was used by the SS and the Gestapo to house people that they thought had information about the Allies and about resistance, and they were torturing people in there. So it totally, again, she again showed me that, things that are not readily available on the internet or whatever. She knew what happened there, but that wasn't even the biggest one that you did.
No.
I was like,
The next one was, now he didn't, he, this is new to him. Like I said, I drug him into this kicking and screaming, not because I was trying to change his mind. So he's asking me questions, and we're walking that evening, and he goes, he says, we're in front of the city hall, and we were just happening to talk about, stuff that happened. And he's like, if you see on the city hall, there's still bullets, bullet holes in the stone. So he says, how come, we've been in there a couple times. How come you don't pick anything up from there? And I had to explain to him that the first floor, what we call ground floor, is constantly changing. It's changing the interior. There's people of all races coming in there. So that residual energy on that floor is gone. But I did tell him the upper floors, I wouldn't feel comfortable going into, because things happened the higher up you went. And that kind of piqued his interest, because he had no idea, that this happens. So, during this time, we're constantly getting visitors, constantly in our house. I call them visitors. We're constantly getting spirits. And, the dog's picking up on it. I'm calming them down. And how did you explain my ability?
well, I told you, I see you more like this lighthouse, just in the dark, just shining your
Yep.
light, and which basically attracts all these spirits to to you, and knowing that they can communicate with you. But also, of course, I am much more into residual, and
Yeah.
much more convinced of residual than of life spirits.
But I think what really kicked it in for you is the fact that our dog was reacting, and the things I was
That you didn't know.
right.
That's if you talk about things you cannot know. If I can take anybody here from America to Rotterdam, they don't know anything about the history of Rotterdam. They don't know anything where things happened or what happened. And it's even for people that live there don't know everything.
Right.
So it's quite interesting.
Yes, to say the least.
Yeah.
So, time has gone on now, and we've had our kid, and things have kicked up a little bit more. And, he was still a tiny, tiny thing, and he was having horrible night terrors. I mean, his little body was so, I would hear him screaming. I mean, just, a scream that, you got to go to your kid. And I would pick him up, and his little body's so rigid, and he wouldn't loosen up, and nothing I could do. And then, my husband's coming in, and he's trying to console our child, and nothing's working. And then all of a sudden it stops, and he's sound asleep. It's like he never woke up. He never opened his eyes, but it was the most bizarre thing. And I was like, okay, this is a night terror. And I was like, I've got to be careful and I got to be on top of this. And I've really got to protect our child. And I had noticed that, what was it, the first Wednesday of every month?
Of every month, yes.
I was telling, we had what they call Tysorg. They're not nurses, but they're people that come, they help you, they make sure you're, taking a shower and you're fed and medicines are all taken, so they just come in and help. And I was telling one of the ladies, I was like, oh, the sirens were going off. And I was like, I get so nervous and I get so antsy every time these sirens go off. I don't get it. My husband was walking the dog. He came in and heard us talking about it. And she said, wow, that's interesting because all our elderly I shouldn't say patients, but clients react the same way. And she's like, and you're picking up on that? And I was at first kind of dumbfounded, like, huh? And I let it soak in and I realized, those were the air raid sounds. And so that's why I'm picking up on it. It was another kind of residual energy that, my husband once again was subjected to. And he didn't realize it either because I explained to him. I was like, God, that is just creepy. It is creepy. Every time those sirens went off, oh my God, my heart would pick up and I just got so uncomfortable and antsy. And so when I kind of delved into it more to kind of put feelers out, I realized even though where we lived, there was no bombing, but how far away would you say?
Not more than 2 miles away.
Right. So once again, my husband had to explain to me the stories of Rotterdam and what happened and how the city was completely decimated.
Center.
Yeah, the center.
Yeah.
The center was completely decimated. I think there was, City Hall was saved.
The church.
The church, but I think it was kind of on its last legs. And wasn't it, what's the other building?
The White House.
The White House, which was a very tall building. It's very striking. And wasn't also, oh, I forgot the building that we called it. That was still standing. It's right on the cool single.
It's the post office. You got the post
No,
office?
not the post office.
What's the building that you want?
A lot of Americans work there. English-speaking people work there.
It's not WTC.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I thought that was saved.
That's newly built.
Okay. My bad.
That's okay.
But, he showed me pictures of what it looked like. And I think we even, they found a bomb that hadn't exploded not too far from our house, which they kind of, said, watch your TV, stay inside, stay off the streets. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So that was another residual energy that I couldn't explain. And if I couldn't explain it to my husband, what's the point of even talking about it, right? So our next story goes, we're walking one evening, it's dark, we're in the big park.
In the park.
Yeah. And we're on the back side of it, where there's lots of trees. And I told him, I was like, I said, I can hear kids screaming. I can hear them crying. I can't make out what they're saying because, I still didn't know Dutch. And it was slowly, Dutch was coming to me a little bit at this time, but I still couldn't make it out. And I said, I just feel fear from these children. And my husband was taken back by it. And, every time I tell him, I relay him these things, he does his research again. And
Yeah, I talked to somebody from City Hall, and they told me, like, I said, is there something with that park? I said, like during the war, that something happened in that park or anything? And he said, well, he said they used that when the bombings were going on. They said they used that to move the kids and out of the city and into the park because they knew they wouldn't bomb the park. They were after the harbors, but not after the park. So all these kids were moved over there. And I think, again, I was like, I did not even know that. I know a lot about the history of my city. I did not know that. And that's, again, that's like, you talk about residual energy.
the fear.
It still is there, and I understand how people that are sensitive and are living in my city would be, sensitive to these things that are going on in this city.
Yeah. I could even, I had even told my husband once I could pick up on the family that lived in our house. And in the 70s, they broke the house to make it 2 homes instead of 1. But I could still pick up the energy of the family when they hear the air raid horns going off. And it took me back again. It's like instead of flashes, it's a movie reel. And I could feel the shaking of the home, and I could hear and smell and feel the emotion just pouring off these people, how frightened, how scared they were. It's just it's an interesting thing, to say the least. And I explained that to my husband as well. And he says it would make sense that I would pick up these things. And so we moved here, and not realizing how close we were to a battlefield, especially the road above us, and how there was such a big battle right there. And once again, here I'm picking up the residual energy, and there's a big creek. I wouldn't say creek. It's a little bit bigger than a creek. And once again, I can pick up and sense all this, craziness that's going on. So that is
How you broaden my world. Yeah.
So please share your stories. I would love to hear them. I know other people would love to hear them. So you can post them and let other people read them. Or if you're not comfortable, please, by all means, go to the About page, and my email's there, and you can email me your story and I can read it out to other people. And I hope all of y'all are doing well, are healthy, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.